your home changes the moment someone texts you. We are almost there. Nothing has actually changed. But suddenly, the cup on the table, the blanket on the sofa, and those few water spots on the bathroom mirror all look completely different. You are no longer looking at your home through the eyes of someone who lives there. You are looking at it through the eyes of someone who is about to open the door and welcome guests. And that is when a lot of people start cleaning the wrong things. Because guests are not going to inspect every drawer. They experience the first 10 minutes. There is something I find really interesting about this moment. Your home does not suddenly become dirtier just because your phone buzzed. That cup may have been sitting on the table since this morning. The blanket may have been on the sofa for hours. A bag beside the chair may have been there for so long that you barely notice it anymore. But the moment someone else is about to walk in, all of those little things suddenly become impossible to ignore, not because they are serious problems, but because the person you are imagining looking at the house has changed. You start wondering what someone else will think before they have even seen anything, and that is where the pressure begins. You were only going to put away the cup, but while carrying it into the kitchen, you notice the counter. So you start clearing the counter, and then you remember that the bathroom is not ready. On your way to the bathroom, you notice the bedroom door is open, and suddenly you are folding clothes in a room your guests will not even enter. 10 minutes ago, you were living completely normally in this house. Now, every unfinished task seems to be demanding your attention at the same time. That is why being guest-ready and being clean are not exactly the same thing. Guest-ready is not a condition that applies to the entire house. It is the condition of the first few places another person will actually experience. A home can be imperfect and still be ready for guests. On the other hand, a fairly clean home can still make you feel unprepared if those first few moments look unfinished. Think about the sofa. It does not need to be spotless. But if your guests walk in and the first thing you have to say is, "Give me a second. Let me clear this off," the room has already sent a very clear message before the conversation has even begun. Or think about the bathroom. The floor may be clean, but if the sink is covered with personal items, a damp towel is hanging awkwardly to one side, and you have to rush in a few seconds before your guest to straighten everything up, the uncomfortable feeling does not necessarily come from the bathroom being dirty. It comes from the room looking like it was not ready for another person to use. A lot of the time, what embarrasses us is not dirt. It is the sight of things that still feel unfinished. A chair that is not ready to sit on. A surface where nobody can set down a drink. A bathroom that feels a little too private. Trash that is still waiting to be taken out. A room that still smells like the last meal. None of those things mean your home is bad. They simply mean your home is in the middle of something. And when no guests are coming over, that is completely normal. A home is a place where people live. What changes when someone else is about to walk through the door is that you do not need every part of your home to work for them. You only need a few small parts to work well. This is where I think many people accidentally create more pressure for themselves. We see an unfinished room and think we need to finish the entire room. We see things on the counter and think we need to clean the whole kitchen. We remember the bedroom is messy and add it to the guest cleaning list, even though we could simply close the door. When everything feels equally important, 10 minutes will never feel like enough. But if you change the question, the entire process of getting ready for guests changes too. Instead of asking, "How much do I still need to clean?" stand by the front door for about 10 seconds and ask Seeks, "If I were walking into this home for the first time, what are the first 3 things my eyes would notice?" Do not start cleaning yet. Just look. Maybe the first thing you notice is a chair that nobody can actually sit on. Maybe it is a main surface covered with unfinished tasks. Maybe it is a walkway that forces someone to step around things. Or maybe there is nothing especially serious at all. That is exactly the point. You are stopping yourself from looking at the house through guilt and starting to look at it through actual experience. The shift here is not from messy to perfect. It is from feeling exposed to feeling ready. Your home can still look lived in. It only needs those first few moments to stop making you feel like someone caught you before you were prepared. If someone texted you right now and said they were on the way to your house, where would your eyes go first? If one place immediately comes to mind, leave the name of that place in the comments: the sofa, the counter, the bathroom, or somewhere else. That is probably the best place to try the guest eye test first. Because from here, we do not need to go through the entire house. We only need to follow the path an actual guest will experience. Imagine you have just done exactly that. You stand by the door for a few seconds. You do not run to grab the vacuum cleaner. You do not open a closet. You do not start folding laundry. You simply look at your home along the path another person is about to take. And the first thing that happens is not that they judge your decor. They simply need to walk inside. The doorway matters for a very simple reason. Does your guest feel like there is somewhere to stand? If they step through the door and immediately have to avoid a bag, walk around an object, or wait for you to move something, the home instantly feels like it is caught in the middle of an unfinished task. That does not mean the entryway has to be completely empty. This is also not the time to reorganize your shoes and bags or come up with a new storage system. You only need to create enough clear space for another person to enter. A place to stand, a path to walk through, nothing more. I think this is why the entryway is so easy to misunderstand when we are preparing for guests. We look at it as an area that needs to be cleaned. But to a guest, it is not a storage area. It is the moment when your home says, "You can come in." And right after that comes something you cannot explain with your eyes. The air. Guests may notice the smell of a room before they have even processed what the room looks like. The smell of leftover food, trash that has not been taken out, a bathroom that has been closed up, pet odors, or simply a room that has been shut all day. This is not the moment to make your home smell like a perfume store. If there is obvious trash, take care of it. If the air feels stale and the weather allows it, create some airflow for a few minutes. If there is an obvious source of an odor, deal with that specific source. A guest-ready home does not need to smell fragrant. It simply needs smell not to become the first thing your guests notice. And once your guests are inside, something matters far more than perfectly clean surfaces. A place to sit. It sounds so obvious that it is easy to overlook. Your guests walk into the living room. You say, "Have a seat." Then you immediately have to move a laptop off the chair, move a blanket, pick up some laundry, or push a few things to one side of the sofa. None of those things are disasters. But before the conversation even begins, you are already fixing the room right in front of your guests. That is the feeling of being caught off guard that this system is designed to remove. A guest-ready living room does not begin with a perfect coffee table. It begins with a seat that requires no explanation. And if possible, leave a small clear area where someone can put down a phone, a glass of water, or a cup of coffee. The coffee table does not need to be completely empty. It just needs to have one part that is actually usable. I think seating is one of the most underrated parts of getting a home ready for guests, because we tend to clean the things that are easiest to see first. But a room can look beautiful and still make guests feel awkward if they do not know where they are supposed to sit. Hospitality begins when another person does not have to wait for you to make room for them. And after a few minutes, a very ordinary question may come up. Where is the bathroom? This is when a fairly private part of your home suddenly becomes part of the guest experience. The bathroom does not need to look like a spa. It does not need candles. It does not need more decor. But it does need to make guests feel like they can use the room without stepping too deeply into your private life. look at the sink first. Is there enough space to wash your hands? Is there a clean hand towel that is easy to recognize? Is the toilet area in a normal, usable condition? Are there highly personal products sitting open or scattered across the vanity? Are there obvious water spots on the mirror? If there are, spending a few seconds here is far more valuable than spending 5 minutes organizing a room your guests will never see. Wipe the sink. Straighten the towel. Check the toilet area. Put away anything overly personal if necessary. Then leave. Do not turn the bathroom into a deep cleaning project. You are only resetting the part your guests will actually use. A guest bathroom does not need to be beautiful. It just needs to show that the person using it has been considered. And when you walk back into the living room, there is another space that often enters the guest's field of view, even if they never actually walk into it. The kitchen. Especially in homes or apartments with an open kitchen connected to the dining and living areas, the counter almost becomes part of the living room. Your guests do not know which drawer is messy. They do not know how clean the inside of your microwave is. But a counter covered with dishes, packaging, mail, and unfinished tasks can make the entire space look like the last meal just ended. And this is where a lot of people look at the counter and think, I need to clean the kitchen. No. You do not have 10 minutes to clean the entire kitchen. You need one clear line of sight. Choose the section of counter that is easiest to see from where your guests will be sitting. Remove the unfinished tasks from that specific view. Do not open cabinets. Do not reorganize the pantry. Do not start wiping down every appliance. Just return one part of the counter to a usable state. An open kitchen turns unfinished kitchen tasks into part of the living room. And by this point, the pattern becomes clearer. The first 10 minutes are not a test of whether your home is perfectly clean. They are a sequence of signals. You can walk in without having to avoid things. The air does not demand your attention. There is somewhere to sit. The bathroom is comfortable to use. The kitchen does not look like an emergency cleanup is happening. That is why a home can look very lived in and still feel ready. You are not removing every sign of daily life. You are simply removing a few signals that make the home feel like it was caught unprepared. Along this guest path, which place creates the most pressure for you? The doorway, the seating area, the bathroom, or the visible kitchen? Choose just one. That may be where the 10-minute system should begin in your home. But if you truly have only 10 minutes left, there is still one important question. What should you do first? What should you do later? And what should you leave completely untouched? That is when being guest ready stops being a to-do list and becomes a system. If you have only 10 minutes, the most important rule is this. Do not clean the house. Follow the guest. Start where they enter. Move through the place where they will sit. Look at what they will see from there. Check the bathroom they may use. Look at the part of the kitchen that is visible. Then stop. That is your scope. It sounds simple, but this is where guilt often tries to pull you away from the system. You are walking through the hallway and remember that the bedroom is not tidy. You notice the laundry room and think you should quickly take care of it. You remember a drawer full of papers. You think about the closet. You start opening a door your guests do not even know exists. And just like that, your 10 minutes are gone. And this is the part that is especially easy to overdo. When we feel embarrassed because guests are coming over, it is very easy to start tasks that cannot possibly be finished in 10 minutes. But a chair your guest cannot sit on and a messy closet behind a closed door do not have equal value in this moment. A bathroom your guest will actually use and a laundry room they will never see do not have equal value either. A guest reset should follow the guest, not your guilt. The 10-minute rule here is not a fixed ritual that every Japanese household follows. It is the way we are applying a practical, Japanese-inspired mindset. Reset the part of the space that needs to serve the present moment instead of trying to control the entire house at once. And sometimes there will be a few small things you simply cannot deal with properly in a few minutes. A toy on the sofa, a few papers on the dining table, a charger, something that was just delivered, something you genuinely need to make a decision about later. In that situation, a temporary basket or tray can be useful, but only under one condition. It needs an ending. If you gather everything into a basket and push it into a closet for 3 months, you have not solved the clutter. You have simply given it a more hidden place to wait. A temporary guest basket only works when the rule is very clear. It comes out when guests are on the way. It holds the things you cannot deal with immediately. And after your guests leave, you spend a few minutes returning those things to their proper places or making whatever decisions need to be made. A temporary basket is only useful if it has an endpoint. But there is an even simpler option. Close the door. The bedroom does not need to be guest ready if your guests are not going into the bedroom. The home office does not need to be guest ready if it is not part of the visit. The laundry room does not need to be included in some imaginary inspection you are creating in your head. The same is true for the storage room. This is not about hiding some embarrassing version of your life. It is about defining the scope. A home does not need to open every door to prove that it is being managed well. Maybe laundry is waiting. Maybe there are papers on the desk. Maybe the bed is not made. That is fine. If an area is not serving this visit, it is not part of the task. Being guest ready does not mean every room is open for inspection. It means the part of your home that is welcoming another person is ready to do its job. If practical, Japanese-inspired systems like this help make your home easier to live in without turning it into a performance. Subscribe to The Quiet Home. And once you have defined the guest zone, there is one final thing worth doing before you take your hands off everything. Choose one surface to finish. Just one. It might be the coffee table, one section of the dining table, the bathroom sink, the entryway bench, or one stretch of kitchen counter. You do not need to make it perfect. You only need it to look complete. Because that surface is not only something your guests will see, it also gives you a very important signal. Enough. You do not need to look for more work. You do not need to open another room. You do not need to start a new project with only a few minutes left. One finished surface gives you permission to stop. And that is when the 10-minute rule becomes genuinely useful. Not because you need to grab a timer and race around the house every time guests come over, but because the next time it happens, you will not have to stand in the middle of the living room wondering where to begin. You only need 3 steps. For the first 2 minutes, do not clean anything. Stand by the door. Look along the path your guests will take. Choose the 3 most noticeable areas along that specific guest path in your home. From minute 3 through minute 8, deal with the things your guests will actually breathe, touch, and use. If there is obvious trash, take it out. If the air feels stale, freshen it up if appropriate. Create a place to sit. Create a small space where someone can set down a drink. Reset the usable part of the bathroom. Do not do anything more. For the final 2 minutes, close the scene. Clear one visible stretch of counter if the kitchen opens into the living area. Close the doors to rooms that are not part of the guest zone. Choose one final surface and bring it back to a ready state. Then stop, actually stop, because a system only reduces pressure if it also tells you when the work is enough. And if you are not sure whether your home is guest ready yet, use this test. Do not look inside drawers. Do not look inside closets. Just ask 5 questions. What will someone see during the first 30 seconds after walking in? What will they smell before they sit down? Is there somewhere they can sit without you having to move anything in front of them first? Can they use the bathroom without feeling like they have just stepped into your private storage space? And is there one surface that quietly says the home is ready? If those 5 things are taken care of, the rest of your home can continue being real life. You do not need to turn your house into a hotel just because a friend is about to ring the doorbell. That may be the bigger lesson behind this system. Hospitality needs a boundary. You do not need to prove to someone else that every corner of your life has been handled perfectly. You only need to create one small part of your home that can comfortably receive another person. An entryway with room to step inside, air that feels fresh enough that nobody has to think about it, a seat that is already available, a bathroom that shows the guest has been considered, a surface that does not look like an abandoned task. Those things sound small, but those first few moments can quickly determine whether a home feels like it was caught off guard or feels ready to welcome someone. And if we stay true to the Japanese-inspired spirit of this system, the goal before guests arrive is not to panic clean faster. It is simply to calmly reset the right part of your home, the part that is about to welcome them. If you want more practical, Japanese-inspired systems that make your home easier to maintain in real life, subscribe to The Quiet Home. And in the next video, we will look at a problem that happens even before you need a guest reset. The small habits that allow mess to stay around long enough to eventually turn into an entire day of cleaning.